Welcome to What's Your Next Move, the podcast for peak performers who are making things happen but are running into roadblocks that prevent them from getting what they want. Whether you work for someone else, you're an entrepreneur, thinking about starting your own business, or at a point in your life where you just can't make the move from where you are to where you want to go, you're in the right place. This podcast is all about answering one question: what's your next move? And helping you harness your power so your next move is the one that changes your life. I'm your host and resident provocateur, Arlene Battishill, and I want to know, what's your next move? I'm Arlene Battishill, your host and resident provocateur, and in this episode, I'm going to do something completely different. I'm going to share with you just a couple of minutes from a podcast I was on called Business Leadership Series, where I talked about a moment in time where I was faced with what I was going to need to do in response to losing my job. Have a listen.
I mean, that's incredible that you went that fast ahead. I mean, you were in an uncertain place. You were laid off or leaving a job. And then what made you decide this is the direction I'm going to go? I'm going to take this as far as I can, or I'm going to take it this far. Some people have a hobby and they tinker with it a little bit. Some of us, or some entrepreneurs, they take an idea and they run with it at lightning speed. What was your mindset at that time?
I think that the biggest issue for me was, at that time, not only had my job been taken away, but the stock market imploded as well. And all of my retirement money, half of it evaporated literally overnight. And at that point, I took everything out of the markets, out of the mutual fund companies, and I just put it into money markets, because I felt like, you know what, if I'm going to lose my money, I want to be the one responsible for losing my money, because it's already been demonstrated to me that the markets are going to lose my money and the people who managed my money, because everybody lost their money at that time. And I felt like I never wanted to be in a situation again in my life where someone else controlled my financial or economic future. And it was from that moment forward that I said, you know what, I may lose everything, but at least it will have been of my own doing and no one else's. And that's what motivated the whole thing. And, I spent an extraordinary amount of money going through the process of creating this product and then this company that I could have avoided had I known what I was doing. But what I know today as a result of that investment in my own learning, it's paid off 100 times over, because I now have a thriving consulting business because of my taking that risk and saying, I'm just going to go do this. And I'll figure it out as I go along. And what I discovered along the way is, by virtue of not knowing a lot of things, especially technical things, I was able to look at situations and just see them from a common sense standpoint, where I'd be dealing with technical people and they'd be saying all this crap. And I would say, yeah, but that doesn't make any sense. And they would say, well, that's how it is. And I said, no, that's not how it is. That is not how we do this. That's not how this works. You have to figure out another way to do this. And then they would start thinking differently, because no one has ever pushed people to do anything other than what they know how to do. It's amazing when you hear yourself on someone else's podcast talking about a moment in time. And that moment in time was 10 years ago for me, and how vivid it is, how vivid it still is, and how painful it is to have come from a place of losing my job and being faced with the loss of everything, and what was I going to do, and what was my next move. And as I look back on this now 10 years later, I think to myself, holy fuck, what a ride this has been. I could have never imagined that my life would take the turns that it has, and that I would ultimately end up with the life that I always hoped and dreamed of, but could never achieve before that moment in time when I lost everything. And it's all been made worth it, because I got a chance to do things that I never thought I'd ever be able to do. I've met people that I would have never met any other way. I have the relationship that I've waited a lifetime for, and I just think, holy shit, how did this happen? How is it possible that out of that, the phoenix rises into something so glorious and magnificent, and I get to call this my life? I hope that's what's happening on your journey, or that that's where your journey is going to take you. And as I always say at the end of my podcast, when you think about your life, what's your next move? I'll be back with another episode. Welcome to What's Your Next Move, the podcast for peak performers who are making things happen but are running into roadblocks that prevent them from getting what they want. Whether you work for someone else, you're an entrepreneur, thinking about starting your own business, or at a point in your life where you just can't make the move from where you are to where you want to go, you're in the right place. This podcast is all about answering one question: what's your next move? And helping you harness your power so your next move is the one that changes your life. I'm your host and resident provocateur, Arlene Battishill, and I want to know, what's your next move?